I didn't know what she was or what happened to me that night. I didn't believe what she said, Letty.
Well, a part of you believed it. That's why you kept it from us.
I thought I was protecting everyone.
Well, you done fucked up.
Lovecraft Country was one of those shows that felt bigger than just a TV series. It was an event. It was a cultural conversation wrapped up in horror, sci-fi, history, and the real trauma so many people lived through. The crazy part is that it only lasted one season. Even though the fan base was humongous, everybody was watching, everybody was talking, it was trending, it was getting award nominations. Yet HBO pulled the plug. Fans were left with their jaws on the floor wondering how a show with so much momentum and so much love got canceled. But before we get into that, let's rewind and talk about what the show was really about. Lovecraft Country wasn't just monsters and magic, it was a story about reclaiming power, about reclaiming history, about putting black characters at the center of a genre that had long ignored them. It followed Atticus Tick Freeman, played by Jonathan Majors, a Korean war vet who came back home to find his missing father. But that journey turned into a nightmare road trip through Jim Crow America in the 1950s, a time when sundown towns were just as dangerous as any monster lurking in the shadows. With him was Letitia Letty Lewis, played by Journey Smollett. She became one of the show's most iconic characters with her fire, her fearlessness, and her haunted house storyline. She literally bought a house in a white neighborhood and had to fight not just ghosts but racist neighbors trying to scare her out. Then there was Montrose Freeman, Tick's father, played by the late Michael K. Williams, a complicated man battling demons of his own, from abuse to secrets to struggling with his sexuality. He gave the show some of its deepest and most emotional moments. You had Ruby Baptiste, Letty's sister, whose arc with shapeshifting into a white woman became one of the most shocking but brilliant commentaries on race and power. You had Christina Braithwaite, the cunning and manipulative sorceress representing privilege and obsession. And then you had characters like Hippolyta, who literally went on a cosmic journey of self-discovery through time and space. Diana, who faced curses that forced her to grow up too fast. All of them together made the show feel like a universe within itself. Every episode felt like a whole different genre. You had haunted house horror, Indiana Jones-style treasure hunts, time travel, body horror. Yet somehow it all tied back to one thing: racism, oppression, and the monsters of America. Monsters that weren't hiding in the dark. They were right out in the open wearing badges, hoods, or smiles. This was about rewriting history, about reclaiming narratives, about showing how black families, even while being torn apart by systemic hate, still found ways to hold on, to fight back, and to rise up. That's why fans connected to it so strongly. It was unapologetically bold, experimental, and unafraid to tell the truth wrapped in horror fantasy. So with all of that, why did HBO cancel it? Officially, they called it a limited series. But behind the scenes, the truth was a mix of budget, creative disagreements, and HBO not being convinced that Season 2 could top Season 1. Misha Green, the showrunner, already had plans for Season 2 called Lovecraft Country Supremacy. In that version, America was divided into 4 dystopian territories: the tribal nations of the West, the white lands in the middle, the new Negro Republic in the South, and the Jefferson Commonwealth in the Northeast. Each region had its own rules, dangers, and reflections of America's fractured history. It would have been bold, it would have been divisive, and it would have pushed the story even further, showing how racism and power could reshape entire nations. But HBO didn't take that leap. And that's the heartbreaking part. Because this wasn't a cancellation due to lack of fan interest. The fan base was massive. People loved it. It had awards buzz. It had impact. But business politics cut it short. That's where it stings, because Lovecraft Country wasn't just television. It was a layered piece of art. A love letter to black history and culture told through the lens of horror and fantasy. One of the things that made it stand out was how each episode felt like its own movie. Like the haunted house storyline with Letty buying that home and turning it into a sanctuary. That wasn't just horror, that was about black ownership, black resilience, refusing to be pushed out. Then you had Hippolyta's episode, where she traveled through time and lived entire lives across different eras, learning her worth and realizing her power. It was one of the most beautiful arcs in the show because it said that black women don't just belong in one space. They can take up space anywhere, in any timeline, in any world. And then you had the Tulsa episode, which hit like a gut punch, reminding viewers of the real-life massacre that so many schools and textbooks tried to erase. The show didn't just show it as history. It made you feel it. It put you in that burning chaos and heartbreak. That's what made the series so bold. It didn't sugarcoat anything. It forced audiences to see America's demons while still telling a supernatural story. Even the theme of magic was layered. Magic was portrayed as knowledge and power, and the struggle was about who gets access to it, who gets to wield it, who gets excluded from it, which was a direct metaphor for systems of privilege. Christina Braithwaite had access, But Letty and Tick had to fight tooth and nail to claim their space in it. The way the show used horror tropes, vampire-like monsters, cursed dolls, secret lodges, and otherworldly portals was never just for scares. It was all tied back to real trauma and survival. Even Ruby's storyline, turning into a white woman, wasn't just shocking. It was commentary on assimilation, power dynamics, and the price of trying to fit into a world that's not made for you. So when fans say the cancellation hurt, it's because the show wasn't just entertainment. It was teaching, it was healing, it was giving us representation in a genre that rarely gave us center stage. That's why the legacy of Lovecraft Country is so strong. Because one season was enough to prove that horror can be more than monsters. It can be history, it can be protest, it can be truth, and it can still make you jump out of your seat while you're learning something real at the same time. In the end, we were robbed of what could have been one of the greatest follow-ups in modern television. But even though we'll never see season 2, the conversations, the lessons, and the impact of that one season will live on forever. Lovecraft Country was short-lived but never forgotten. A show that burned so bright it couldn't be contained. One of HBO's biggest missed opportunities, but also one of the most beloved one-season wonders of all time.